Welcome back. Good morning, Amy. Glad to have you all back here at Smurawa's Country Bakery in Pulaski. This morning we're going to be making one of our more popular pies. It's a great holiday pie, Thanksgiving, Christmas, or whichever holiday you're celebrating. What we're going to be doing is a Kentucky Derby pie. Now, similar to a pecan pie, but much richer. And if you choose to, you can put the whiskey in it, and that's what makes the difference between a Kentucky Derby pie and a pecan pie also. What we're going to do is we're going to start with our cup of brown sugar, and we've got 1/3 of a teaspoon of salt in there. And then we're going to measure off a cup of corn syrup. Now, a pecan pie is a custard pie, so the similarities between a custard pie, make a mess right away. A pecan pie is like a pumpkin pie or an egg custard pie or coconut custard pie. All right, so we got our corn syrup in there. We have our salt. And then we're going to add to that 3 eggs. One at a time. And once we add the 3 eggs in there, we're going to want to start mixing. We're going to use a whip. You can mix it by hand if you wish. Don't be afraid of pecan pies. It's a relatively cheap pie to make, with the exception of the nuts. But I mean, you can use walnuts, you can use pecans, but for the Kentucky Derby pie, we're using walnuts. Now, while we're going to let that mix, we're going to take our pie shell. I'm using a 9 or 9.5 inch pie shell. We got the crust already prepped here. Now, a Kentucky Derby pie has chocolate chips in it, so we're going to use semi-sweet chocolate chips, about a cup. Put a good layer on the bottom like this. And then to that, we're going to add about a cup of walnuts, chopped walnuts. Now, the semi-sweet chocolate chips really adds a nice richness to the pie. While this is mixing, we're going to warm up a 1/3 cup of butter. And then we're going to add the butter to this. Thank you, special assistants. Here we have the butter added in there. And we're going to let that mix around for a little bit yet. Now, this next ingredient is optional. The pie is fantastic without it, but it's what makes a Kentucky Derby pie. You can use whiskey, you can use brandy, you can use bourbon if you wish. I'm going to use whiskey today. We're going to add a 1/4 cup. And that feels like a 1/4 cup. So we're going to start working that in there. Now, if you want just enough flavor, you can add just a couple tablespoons. If you want a little more kick, you got more of an adult party, then go a little heavier on that. And that is ready to go. I'm going to take the whip off. Nice and smooth. Now, sometimes if you've got kind of an old, well, not old, but if your brown sugar kind of dries out a little bit, you might have some lumps down there. So that'll happen. Just leave those in the bottom of the bowl when you pour it in. So we're going to bring the crust over here. And there we have our walnuts. And I crushed up the walnuts just a little bit. I'm going to throw a little more on there. Chocolate chips on the bottom. Build your crust up a little on the outside. If you're not good with crusts, go to the store, pick them up there. That's fine. And then we've got the filling. We're just going to pour the filling over the walnuts like this. Like I said, this is a 9.5 inch crust. There we go. You don't want to overfill it. Okay, this is ready to go in the oven. We're going to go in a preheated oven at 350 degrees, and you're going to bake it for about 50 to 60 minutes. And it'll come up, it'll have kind of a dome to it, and then once you take it out, it'll settle down, it'll be firm in the center. Just make sure it's not jiggly or loose. And then that is going to go in the oven, and when you take it out and cool it, you're going to end up with a beautiful pie like that you're definitely going to want to serve seconds, and you aren't going to have people asking. They'll be just coming back with their empty plate saying, I'll have another piece of that. That is a Kentucky Derby pie from Smurawa's Country Bakery in Pulaski.